Hey YouTube, thanks for joining me today. I want to talk to you about a very, I don't know if I will consider it a problem. It's not a problem, but something that is considered with the regular maintenance of a car. Driving down the road, all of a sudden the steering wheel gets real stiff. You have the battery light pops on the dashboard. You have other lights, alternator, battery, lights of that nature pop on the dashboard. Right now, don't worry about all the lights because I have only the key in the ignition, but I didn't start the car. But the steering wheel become real stiff and you feel that something goes wrong with the car. I want to show you what one of the reason something that will cause that, beside if it's not the power steering pump. If you have other issues, what can cause that problem, and something that simple preventive maintenance can prevent that from happening. Something that you have to do probably every, I would recommend 85,000 miles. Depends again also on the climate, the weather of the state you live in. But if you live in Georgia, we are in Georgia. If you live in Georgia, every 85,000 miles, something that you should do to your car to prevent that from happening. So this car came in, the complaint was that the power steering wheel is really stiff, really hard. The car wouldn't turn, and the battery light popped up, and the customer doesn't know why. Stay with me, I'll show you why. Okay, so as I said, it's not a problem. It's something that have to do with the continuous maintenance and preventive maintenance of the car. Something that Mercedes did, which I think is very smart, they made one of the pulleys. I may have to get some light to show you. Give me a second, let me get a light so you can see deeper into the engine. Okay, so one of the pulleys, and I'll explain you about the pulleys, what's their purpose and what exactly they do in the engine. But one of the pulleys in that case, in this car, broke. As you can see, this one right here, Mercedes made them out of plastic. I'll show you in a second how they look outside. And they made it on purpose from plastic, so in case something else freezes on the engine, they will break first and prevent a bigger damage to the engine itself. So the purpose of the pulleys on the engine is to connect the V-belt. You got the serpentine belt that is connecting all the pulleys together and making sure that the crankshaft pulley, which is this one right there down, will spin all of them together with one belt. And they put a couple of pulleys around the engine that don't have any purpose beside holding and supporting the belt itself, which is, this is one of them, the idler pulley, and this is the other one, which is another idler pulley. And then you have a tensioner, which is down there. This is the tensioner, as you can see, that you'll be able to pull that backward to be able to put the belt on. The purpose of the belts, the purpose of the idler pulleys and the tensioner is to hold the belt that way that it goes around the other things, other mechanism of the engine that supports the performance of the car. Like one of them down there is the AC compressor. The other one up here somewhere, let's see if you can see that, it's this one right there. Let me see if I can point that for you. This one, that's the power steering pump that actually, this is the reason, by the way, that you'll feel the power steering so stiff. When the belt breaks, the power steering pump stop working, so the power steering gets real hard to turn. The other one is the alternator, which is somewhere here. Here's the alternator pulley. And the purpose of the alternator, of course, is to provide power to the car, alternating current when the car is operating, and charging the battery. And all of that turning on the engine pulley itself. So all of that is being supported by the engine. And then you have the water pump. So one of the things very important, if you feel your power steering really stiff, one of the things that's going to stop working as well is your water pump, because that's a pulley that works on the engine revolutions as well. So if the pulley breaks, your water pump's not going to stop working, so obviously the engine, the car, going to start and heat up a little faster. One of the things that we do when a car comes for a service is we always inspect the pulleys and inspect the pump, not the pump, I'm sorry, the belt. We're looking at the grooves and looking at cracks and stuff of that nature to see if it's due for replacement. So as you can see here, let me see, here's the belt, and it basically it just broke off. But what we look into is on the grooves themselves, if it's aged and if it's starting to crack, and the gaps between the grooves. So we would recommend like a car that comes with about 80,000, 85,000, 90,000 miles that come for a service. We will always recommend to change the idler pulleys, and very important to change all three of them together: the tensioner, the secondary idler pulley, and the primer idler pulley. Replace all three of them, and you'll prevent yourself the headache of having that problem. So this YouTube is, again, most of my YouTubes are educational, to explain you the reason stuff happens and how to prevent it from happening, rather than show you how to fix it. But in that case, we're going to replace the tensioner, the idler pulleys, and the belt, and put the car back on the road. But if you run into the situation that you have stiff steering wheel while you're driving, first thing you have to do is open the hood and look over here after you remove the engine cover, the upper engine cover. That's how you're going to see your engine on the Mercedes. In that specific case, it's a V8. As you can see, it's the 273 engine. But once you pop it up and remove it, you can look inside here and see if you see that the belt is broken or the idler pulleys are cracked. Sometimes it can happen from different reasons. It can happen because the AC is frozen. It can happen because I haven't seen any alternator freezing. But it can be because the alternator is breaking, or it can be because the water pump is bad. But the most common reason is because this idler pulley breaks, and Mercedes made it that way, that if anything else freezes throughout the pulleys of the engine, this one over here will break, the plastic one will break. Now let me show you how the plastic one looks outside. I'll bring one and let you take a look at it. Stay with me. Okay, so this is the idler pulley. As you can see, it's got a 272 part number, which 272 is the 6 cylinders engine. A lot of parts, and that's what I like about Mercedes too, a lot of the parts that are for the 6 cylinders are going to be for the 8 cylinders engine as well, so you can always you use the same, the identical parts. But that's a 272 part number, and this is the plastic idler pulley. And the belt sits on this one, and this one just doesn't have any purpose beside supporting the belt and preventing major damage to the engine when they break. So this one is the one that will break first when anything freezes on the engine. Because what happened, you have to remember that the engine will keep on spinning while it's spinning the belt. And because it keeps on spinning and spinning the belt, whatever stopped working, if it just froze from whatever reason, because the bearings are good, or because the water pump's not working, or because whatever other reason, the belt will keep on spinning on that until it hits it up to a temperature which it will crack it and break it, and in that case prevent bigger major damage to the engine. But I did see situations where the belt itself cracked also the radiator and broke the fan, and things that caused more major damage. So to prevent that, wherever repair shop you're taking your car to, make sure that they inspect that every service that you do. If you do a service A, service B, service C, when you reach about 85,000 miles, tell your technicians to start and inspect and look into the serpentine belts and the idler pulleys, and make sure they record the condition of them and change them if necessary. I would recommend, regardless if necessary or not to wait with it too long and change it at about 85,000 miles, unless you had a different problem that caused them to break before. Other than that, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for watching my YouTubes. Don't forget to sign up to my channel. I give a lot of good advices and a lot of preventive maintenance ideas and knowledge. I think in general, try to educate people to operate safe vehicles, in particular Mercedes. Thanks again.